Okay, good morning, everybody. Board of Control, September 20th. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning. Calling the roll for the Monday, September 20th Board of Control meeting. It is 11:01. Nan Baker. Here. Dale Miller.
Here.
Jim Boyle serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones.
Here.
Nicole English serving as an alternate for Mike Dever.
Here.
Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Ermin Budish.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Catherine Takaczyk.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is to review the minutes from September 13th. I'm going to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
Okay, moving on to our first item, please.
First item, BC 2021-511, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an RFP exemption, which will result in an award recommendation to Case Western Reserve University, Mandel School of Applied Social Sciences, in the amount not to exceed $20,000 for evaluation services of the Safe Harbor docket programs for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022, and recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Sarah Baker, Juvenile Court. This is a new contract that we have with Case Western Reserve University, and they will be providing evaluation services on our Safe Harbor docket. Our Safe Harbor docket used to be completely 100% funded by our VOCA grant. However, we've had to shift some of those expenses over to our Reclaim grant. So going forward, most of the expenses are now in Reclaim versus our VOCA grant. So they'll be evaluating the performance of the docket with various types of different research tools, and then kind of evaluating how the youth's progress is and how they're doing throughout the program on the docket. They'll also observe the docket as well and make any sort of recommendations as to procedure or efficiencies, things like that, that they can work with court staff on as well.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Are there questions in this item?
Yes.
Councilman Miller.
Could you just say a little bit more about the types of services that are provided and what we're trying to do under this program that's different than what we generally do that we would want to have it evaluated?
So our Safe Harbor docket is specifically for victims of human trafficking. So under that docket, we have trauma-informed residential services. We also have trauma-informed treatment, which is community-based. And then we have trauma-informed mentoring services as well. And then we have various types of kind of incentive-based programs as well for the kids. So this is a little bit different. We don't have, that's only serving these kids. We don't have any other programs like this at the court. And this docket is specifically for those kids only. We have a specific probation officer that deals only with these youth. They have quarterly meetings, they have weekly team meetings, and we also have a specific jurist and magistrate that's assigned only to this program.
And are these typically youth that are charged with offenses, or are they more like victims?
They're more victims, but they come to our attention based upon getting themselves involved with criminal activity. So that's what brings them to the attention of juvenile court. But prior to doing any sort of adjudication, we are trying to see if we can work with them in the community and keep them safe. We also have a safe space program that we can utilize for them, which is a 21-day or less kind of residential home that we can send them to, so that if we need to assess them, get them away from home, maybe their issues are in the home, maybe they're in a different community environment. So we can kind of get them away from that and get them in a safer place.
Thank you.
Mr. Boyle, please.
Just briefly, how much did you guys, what was the previous VOCA grant? What did you guys get that do you know? I mean, if you can get that to me.
I think when we started off getting VOCA funds, it was more along the lines in the $200,000 range. And this year when we applied, which we have not gotten our award yet, we were only able to ask for about 82.
Yeah, I know that the numbers have decreased significantly. And then just a comment more than anything else. On the human trafficking issue, I know that the sheriff has a task force and they do excellent work. And I know that you guys are doing a lot of really good work on those type of things. And those are some of the things. We hear a lot of negative stuff about the county. Those are things that could be really good stories about the work that you guys and the sheriff's, the task force are doing as well. Just something to keep in the back of your mind.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any final questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2021-512, Department of Public Safety and Justice Services, recommending an award and enter into a contract with Aladtech Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $8,674 for cloud-based online scheduling system services for the period October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2024.
Good morning, Mary Beth Vaughn from Public Safety, and this is software that we use to schedule the call takers in CCOMs. We have been using this service for the last 3 years and have been very pleased because we were spending a lot of time trying to do scheduling manually before. We did solicit quotes, and we are going with the lowest cost compliant quote.
Okay, thank you, Mary Beth. Are there questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Thank
Item
you.
approved. Next item.
Moving on to exemptions, item BC 2021-513, Court of Common Pleas Juvenile Court Division, submitting an RFP exemption which will result in an award recommendation to Applewood Centers Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $926,647 for emergency respite and crisis bed services for youth referred by the Coordinated Approach to Misdemeanors Program for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022.
Good morning, Sarah Baker with Juvenile Court again. This is a new contract that we have with our Reclaim Grant, and it's for 24/7 crisis availability with Applewood Centers. It will be using their Daisy House that's right across the street from their residential facility, and it's going to be working in conjunction with our Early Intervention and Diversion Center. So they'll be working on, kids coming in at all hours of the day or night. They can provide assessment services. They can determine whether a kid needs to go maybe to a respite home. They can reach out to relatives. They can reach out to family friends and see if they need to get the kids out of the home. Or if it's more of a dire situation, we can work with Applewood to get the kids into some sort of a short-term residential crisis bed across the street. And then they would work again with court staff in the Early Intervention Center to determine, next steps going forward, whether it needs to be case management, whether we need to do something else with the youth, and they would work with our care coordinators in the intervention center to come up with a plan going forward.
Okay, thank you again, Sarah. Questions from the board on this item? Yes, Councilwoman Baker.
Did I hear you say this was a new contract?
New contract, yes.
So what was there an old contract that this is picking up from, or is this brand new service, or?
It's somewhat of a brand new service. It stems from the fact that we have lost our shelter care contract and we lost our respite care contract. So we have been looking for ways to secure other alternatives to detention. So this is kind of helping those kids that are coming in at, like I said, all hours of the day and night, and it's helping to divert those kids from detention.
Was there a gap in time in the interim where we didn't offer these services? How?
It's been a good couple of months since we've had either shelter care or respite.
And so what did these children do, or how did we manage those services without this or anything else?
They've either been going into the detention center, or if they were coming in during the day, then we've been able to work, and be able to find, like court staff has been able to work with families and try to find family relatives that could take the kids. But we've been in dire need of, alternatives to detention. So we have a couple agreements coming forward in the next couple of weeks that are new concepts and new ideas for alternatives to detention.
And I see for a new contract, it's almost $1 million that's needed, and it's only lasting till June of next year.
So this is just part of Reclaim, so it's on the state fiscal year.
Okay.
So we only have the funding for the state fiscal year. Our plan is, obviously, as long as we get the same funding as we are hoping and planning to, that we would then look to have the same amount of funding in the following year. But since we don't have that funding available yet, we wouldn't know how much funding we'd be able to add for the following year.
All right, so this is more than just this service, the amount of money that's being requested. Is that right? You don't need the whole $1 million to get you through to the end of June of next year, or
We may.
May?
And based upon how much we use the program this year, because there's two components of this as well. So part of it is if the kids go into residential or things like that. The other component is the assessment and kind of, when the kids come in. So when the kids come in and welcoming the kids and the families, that's a monthly cost. And then you have the cost for the kids that go into the residential facility. And since it's new, we don't really know how many kids are going to go in. So it's possible we may use all these funds, and then depending on how well the program goes this year and how much we utilize it, will kind of depend on what we write into the reclaim plan for next year.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good to know.
Councilman Miller, please. Yeah.
You said that you lost the shelter and respite care programs. How did you lose them?
So we previously had 2 vendors attached to our shelter care contract. One was Carrington Youth Academy and one was Cleveland Christian Home. And it was somewhat during the pandemic that Cleveland Christian Home was not accepting any youth, period. So it was not just a juvenile court issue, they just stopped taking youth. I'm not sure if they are taking youth currently. I'm not sure how that's worked out, but they were no longer taking our youth. And then in regards to Carrington Youth Academy, there was an investigation done, I think with the DCFS, and the court decided to pull all of our youth out of the facility. So we had nowhere to send them to. With our respite contract, we had previously contracted with Safi through our CALM program, and we were only able to get 1 bed, and it wasn't a bed that we were able to have access to on a daily basis. So the contract ended up not going through for the following term because Safi was not able to guarantee us a bed.
Okay, thank you.
Any final questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2021-514, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, requesting to amend Board Approval Number BC 2020-49, dated January 13th, 2020, which approved an alternative procurement process to allow quarterly repetitive food purchases in the amount not to exceed $1 million for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2023, to allow for monthly repetitive food purchases effective September 20th, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $1,500,000.
Sarah Baker with Juvenile Court. We're asking to modify our alternative procurement process for a number of different reasons. Mostly due to the pandemic, we're seeing a lot of issues not able to secure food for kids in the detention center. A lot of the vendors aren't able to bid on a quarterly basis. They're only willing to do it on a monthly basis, if that. And a lot of new vendors aren't willing to take new clients at all. Whereas before it used to be, they'd be able to fill our orders at a rate of like 90%. Now it's kind of at 60% on a good day. We've had issues where we're kind of not able to get food in the detention center. So if we switch it down to monthly, we have better luck getting the vendors to bid. And we're also seeing an increase in food cost from about 30 to 60% increase.
Wow. Questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved. Next
Thank you.
item.
Next item, BC 2021-515, Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending to amend Board Approval Number BC 2019-914, dated December 9th, 2019, which amended Board Approval Number BC 2019-95, dated February 4th, 2019, which approved an alternative procurement process resulting in award recommendations to Promega and Life Technologies in the total amount not to exceed $854,105 to procure genetic testing kits and other consumable supplies for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2022, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2023, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $292,333.
Keith Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. This is just an extension of our procurement for our bulk of our DNA supplies. It was being funded with the 2019 grant. Those funds were exhausted, and so now we needed to amend it and extend it with the 2020 grant.
Okay, thank you, Hugh. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Moving on.
Moving on to the consent agenda, items BC 2021-516 through 518. And on item number 518, we will be holding purchase order number 21003395 for the Department of Information Technology, award to Spacebound.
Okay, thank you. Board members, please take a look at the items and feel free to, any questions?
I have one question.
Councilman Miller, please.
My question is regarding the IT purchases, and I know in the past we've used these large generic contracts, and which in the responses to the advanced question, you said we're going to put out an RFP next year, and my question is, do you have a sense whether the costs are higher or lower either way, or is it about the same?
Janelle Green, Department of IT. We have seen a significant increase in the cost of IT goods. Right now, there is a chip shortage worldwide. So if we were to go out and buy laptops, for example, they would take a significantly longer time. What we've seen from laptops, for example, that we've procured in July and August, don't even have a ship date till December. So we're seeing a lag time and an increase in cost.
Do you think that there will be any cost savings in bidding out one of these large contracts, or do you think that the same problems will affect that to the same degree, and that we might save a little bit on having to process so many different transactions, but there may not be any cost on the savings on the items themselves? What do you think?
So just in remembering the last contract that expired in 2020, we did see some cost savings on some items. In 2021, we did see probably a $20, let's say for the monitors, for example, that we usually have, that are 23-inch monitors we have, went up $20 in 2021. Even if we bought off state term, those were the prices that we had. So I think we're going to see an increase. Well, we will definitely hope and check against state term and GSA funding for those. But we are going to see an increase, I think, across the board on all IT items, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions on today's consent agenda items?
If I may.
Please.
Nicole, on 516, we're taking money out. It looks like the bid. Are these things, though, that we could have known about before? Or if you can just give me a little primer on that.
Mm-hmm. So this one, a big amount of this was, when we do a resurfacing, we don't know what's underneath the pavement. And so when they start looking, if the base is in really bad shape, they have a lot of base repair. This one there was a lot of base repair included in the bid, but when they got out there, it was actually a brick road underneath and was in really good shape. So I think about half of this decrease is related to that the base was in good shape, and so we didn't need it. It's a pretty long project, so that's why so much of that. And then there was some phasing that the contractor changed up in the field to be more productive, to get cars through quicker, so then he didn't have to stripe these temporary striping, so that added to it. And then the last big one is when we got out there, from the time that we were designing to when we actually started construction, there was other side street projects that Cleveland had done on their own, and so they replaced the ADA curb ramps ahead of us, and so when we got through, we didn't have to because it was already upgraded. So that was another one that was kind of a big cost. So some of it, could we know? I mean, we try to do our best at the time when we're designing and bidding to put in what we could possibly, because again, we get kind of, criticized if we have too many change orders. So you're trying to cover what you think you might encounter out there, but sometimes you don't encounter it. So this one was...
Taking it a step back to the bid process, the information that was available would have been the same for all of the bidders.
Oh, yes, okay. For sure, yeah. Yeah, this was definitely, unless somebody went out and did some cores themselves and figured it out, but no, it's all the same information.
Any additional questions on today's, Councilwoman Baker, please.
One real quick. So I was just looking at the original quote. Was that 4 million almost for
Mhm,
this
correct.
project? So actually a fourth of that, it's a considerable amount of difference
Correct.
that came in as being under. Does that go back to the Road and Bridge Fund?
So this project is funded 50% from issue one, so grant
Okay.
money that we won't use. 25% is us and 25% Cleveland. So a quarter of this goes back to our road and bridge fund. A quarter
Okay.
of it will go back to Cleveland, and then we just will not ask for reimbursement from 50% of it from issue one.
Good, okay, thank you.
Nicole, can you realign that issue one money by chance? Like the next project up, maybe?
We sometimes are strategic in when we return the money.
Okay.
To when it would be helpful to us, yeah, with other projects.
I like it when Chambers goes back to his public work days. I like this. You better be ready, Nicole.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, seeing no additional questions, I will make a motion to approve, as noted, removing or holding 395, today's consent agenda items. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Second by Mr. Boyle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Today's consent agenda items are approved. Moving on to other business.
No other business?
No other business. I'm taking, we have any additional public comment?
No public comment.
No public comment. Therefore, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor to adjourn, say aye.